Most folks said our land must have been sitting on an underground lake, if there is such a thing. Well, I don't know about that. All I know is that well of ours never went dry. Now, some folks wouldn't have shared their water, but Mama and Papa, too, weren't those kinds of folks. They believed in sharing what they had, and they tried to teach us boys, my brothers, Mitchell and Kevin, Hammer and me, the same thing. But sometimes it was real hard to do, to share, especially when some of the folks you had to share with were folks the likes of Charlie Sims and his family, folks who hated your guts. Our two families, the Logans and the Simses, had never much gotten along, what with the Simses living less than a mile or so from us on that 40-acre spot of land they tenant farmed, and we sitting on our own 200 acres. There was always likely to be trouble, and there was. Now, this was back before my papa went and bought that second 200 acres. But still, that 200 acres we had then, that was a lot. And the Simses didn't like it, that we had when they didn't. They didn't like it one bit. That was part of the trouble between us. Other part of the trouble was that we were colored and they were white. Fact of the matter was, we ain't never had much use for the Simses, and they ain't never had much use for us either. But seeing that we couldn't hardly afford trouble with them, Papa said best thing to do was try and stay out of their way much as we could. He said it was better to mind our business, let them mind theirs, and just walk away if they tried to start something. I heeded his words. My brother Hammer didn't. During those dry days, the Simses, like a lot of other folks, took their water from the Creek Rosalie. But then things got so bad that even the Rosalie began to muddy and dry, and folks who had never been to our place for water before began to show up. Colored folks and white folks, too. Even the Simses. It was just after dawn the morning Charlie and his brother Ed Rose pulled up in their wagon with 2 big barrels sitting on it. Hammer and me, we just come from the barn after milking some of the cows when we seen them. Hammer was walking ahead of me carrying a full milk bucket in each hand. Me, I was only carrying 1 bucket because I was on a crutch that summer. I had fallen from a tree and busted up my leg, so I had on a cast, had a limp, and I moved slow. Now, I wasn't any happier than Hammer to see the Simses, but I was ready to act civil and say good morning. Not Hammer. First thing out of his mouth, "What y'all doing up here?" Charlie Sims, no more than 14 at the time, held the reins to their mules. Ed Rose, maybe a year or so younger, sat beside him. Charlie stared down at Hammer and me and didn't answer. Ed Rose stared too, but at least he spoke. "Where's your folks?" he asked. "Don't you worry about where they are," said Hammer. "I'm the one standing here." Hammer couldn't have been more than 13, and I was 3 years younger than that. I was kind of a quiet boy, and Hammer, in his way, was too, except he always spoke like a man sure of himself. A man sure of himself even in front of white folks. "You getting smart with me, boy?" asked Ed Rose. Now, back then, white folks ruled everything. A white man said jump, and most black folks did. White man said move out of the way, and most black folks did. White folks could say and do what they wanted just because they ruled things. Because just one word out of them against a black person, man or woman or even a child, and that black man or that black woman or that child could be hanging from a tree, even just for mouthing off. One word. Hammer knew it. I knew it too. Still, Hammer said what he figured to say. He didn't jump. We hadn't been brought up that way.